When new food technologies arrive, precision fermented dairy, cultivated meat, synthetic fats, Halacha doesn't respond with a single monolithic voice. It never has. Instead, Jewish law unfolds as a conversation across continents, cultures, and communities. Ashkenazic, Sephardic, and Hasidic traditions each bring their own interpretive instincts, sensitivities, and historical experiences. And what emerges is not fragmentation but a beautiful, multi-layered tapestry, different communities drawing from the same sources, yet expressing distinct priorities that enrich the halakhic landscape. Ashkenazic halacha often approaches new technologies through the lens of analytical precedent. Centuries of responsa, stretching from Rishonim to contemporary poskim, train Ashkenazic authorities to ask what the earlier texts say about analogous cases: margarine that looked like butter, coffee whiteners that resembled milk, microbial rennet replacing calf rennet, synthetic wines mimicking traditional vintages. This legal methodology creates a natural comfort with novelty. If the principle fits and the analogy holds, Ashkenazic poskim tend to apply halacha with practical creativity. In the context of precision-fermented dairy, many Ashkenazic authorities may emphasize the absence of actual milk as the decisive factor, welcoming these products as pareve while recommending clear labeling to satisfy Maridine concerns. Their rulings would likely be rooted in pragmatic clarity, identify the halakhic category, define its boundaries, and allow communities to enjoy the benefits of innovation. Sephardic halakhic tradition, shaped by Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, and a long legacy of Mediterranean jurisprudence, often takes a more text-centered and system-harmonizing approach. Sephardic authorities tend to place high value on conceptual coherence. Categories must remain internally consistent, and rulings must preserve the integrity of the halakhic structure. This does not make Sephardic rulings more restrictive. In many cases, it opens the door to broader permissibility. For example, Sephardic rulings around kitniyot reflect a commitment to maintaining the original halakhic framework rather than expanding it unnecessarily. Applied to precision-fermented dairy, Sephardic poskim may emphasize that if the substance is fundamentally not milk and shares no halakhic properties with animal-derived dairy, then calling it pareve is not only permissible but the most faithful application of the sources. The focus becomes, what is the essence of the food? And if the essence is microbial and pareve, the halacha follows suit with confidence. Hasidic halacha brings yet another dimension, one rooted in spiritual sensitivity and communal practice. Hasidic communities often approach modern food questions not only through legal reasoning, but through values of kedusha, minhag, and elevating the physical world. While Mishnah Berurah or the Aruch HaShulchan may serve as foundational references, many Hasidic poskim give weight to tradition, caution, and the ways in which foods affect communal identity. Some Hasidic communities might therefore initially approach dairy-like pareve foods with a degree of hesitancy, not because they are inherently prohibited, but because they could blur long-standing culinary boundaries that help maintain spiritual awareness. This caution, however, is not an endpoint. Once labeling is clear, communal standards are defined, and the technology becomes familiar, many Hasidic authorities may embrace these foods as opportunities to reduce animal suffering, expand kosher options, and support ethical consumption. Hasidic halacha often values intention deeply. If the intention is positive, to nourish the community with integrity, halacha can incorporate these innovations harmoniously. Across all three traditions, the differences in rulings often arise from emphasis rather than contradiction. Ashkenazic decisors may emphasize functional precedence. Sephardic decisors may emphasize conceptual purity. Hasidic decisors may emphasize spiritual clarity and communal continuity. Each perspective is rooted in authentic halakhic methodology, and each yields legitimate and valuable conclusions. What is especially beautiful is that these differences rarely fracture the global Jewish community. Instead, they allow halacha to accommodate different cultures, temperaments, and spiritual needs. In a world where food technology is evolving rapidly, this diversity actually strengthens halacha's adaptability. If one community moves more quickly to permit a product, others can observe the outcomes and learn from the experience. If another community adopts a cautious approach, it provides a counterbalance that ensures thorough examination and safeguards communal norms. The halakhic process becomes richer through this interplay. And at a deeper level, The global diversity of rulings reminds us that Halacha has always been relational. Communities shape their leaders, and leaders shape their communities. A Sephardic rabbi ruling in Morocco, a Hasidic rebbe ruling in Brooklyn, and an Ashkenazic posek ruling in London may all examine the same question, but their communal realities differ, their spiritual emphases differ, and their pedagogical goals differ. Far from weakening Halacha, these variations show how resilient and responsive it is. Looking forward, precision fermentation and other novel foods will likely encourage even more collaboration across traditions. Kosher agencies operate with global reach. Rabbinic councils convene experts from every background. Scientific literacy becomes as essential to halakhic deliberation as familiarity with Shas and Poskim. When communities confront truly new technologies, they often find common ground in shared values: protecting consumers, reducing confusion, maintaining kashrut integrity, promoting ethical awareness, and strengthening communal unity. So while Ashkenazic, Sephardic, and Hasidic responses may emphasize different angles, analytical rigor, conceptual clarity, or spiritual sensitivity, their shared goal remains constant: to guide the Jewish people with wisdom, integrity, and care. And the diversity among them is not a challenge to Halacha, it is a celebration of its depth. It shows that Jewish law is broad enough to accommodate global perspectives, strong enough to welcome new technologies, and unified enough that all these voices ultimately move in the same direction, toward a future where Halacha remains vibrant, relevant, and profoundly connected to the evolving world it seeks to sanctify.